Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Brianna, and in today's video I'm going to be telling you guys some of the best tips that I have learned over my years in high school on how to do well on your final exams or get 5s on your AP exams. So this is going to be your ultimate guide because all of these tips are coming from me, a senior in high school now, who is planning on attending Princeton University for the next 4 years and have gotten 5s on the majority of my exams. I started off with taking A-Push and AP Bio my sophomore year, and then I decided to take 4 APs my junior year, and now this year I'm taking 6. The first thing that I suggest all of you to do that has worked out for me is to figure out what subjects as soon as possible that you want to get a review book for. You don't need to get a review book for every single subject, and I actually don't recommend doing that because you probably won't end up using it for the majority of them. And this is definitely true if you're like someone who waits kind of later to study and likes to study a lot closer to the exam in comparison to people who like to study a little bit each time leading up to the exam, like a while before. So for my AP exams this year, I love to use the Princeton review books for the exams. I definitely think that these are the best ones. I actually have a whole bunch of them in my little shelf, as you can see, and I've tried them by Barron's, by Princeton Review, by a bunch of other brands, and I just think that Princeton Review is the best. And I recommend using these books for the practice exams only. If you want to throughout the year, I know for AP Chemistry I used a couple of them to kind of brush up on certain topics I was learning about, but honestly, depending on your class, I would just mainly use these for the practice exams. They have full-length practice exams that are actually a little bit tougher than the actual exam should be, so it over-prepares you for it, which is really great. And they usually give you about 5 or 6 full-length practice tests, which is also really great. This is just generally speaking. Before every single AP test that you have, I recommend taking a full practice test, either one that was released from College Board, which is honestly better because it's like from College Board, or one from Princeton Review, or something similar, and take a full one, either the whole FRQ section or the whole MCQ section or the whole thing in total, and score yourself. And don't be nice to yourself, like do the worst case scenario with your grading, and kind of use that as a gauge of how you think you're going to do on the test, and then based on that you can improve. And then I also recommend you guys go to the Albert.io website and go on to the score calculators, and with the score calculators you can kind of like guesstimate what you think your score is going to be and how many more multiple choice or points on the FRQs you need to score like a 4 or a 5. That has definitely been so helpful for me. I go on that website so often, especially leading up to the exams, so that's just a little tool I recommend you use because it can kind of let you gauge how much better you need to be doing to get the score that you want. Honestly, I have learned this for many of my AP classes. Do not just read the textbook and think that that's going to be enough, because honestly, that for anyone, that's going to be a tiring task to do, and it's going to be overwhelming because there are literally like tens of pages, like 50 plus pages you need to read for like every chapter or unit. If you're new to AP classes and your teacher gives you this huge textbook, I honestly wouldn't worry about it. Like if you don't need to use it, don't use it. For my AP Chemistry class, AP Physics class, I didn't use the textbooks that I got at all throughout the year, basically. Just a general tip again for any APs, you want to make sure that you are fully utilizing your practice exams in your practice books or from past FRQs, anything. What I mean by that is, once you go and take your multiple choice section and you score yourself, don't just end it right there. Like, you want to go back to the questions you missed and actually figure out why you missed them. And this is honestly because if you figure out why you missed those questions, maybe it's something like a big part of the unit that you were struggling on and you didn't realize that you were struggling on, but going back and making sure you know how to get the right answer will be great because it'll implant that into your head and hopefully you can remember that for the exam. and that goes for FRQs as well. Here is a list of all of the APs I've taken and the ones that I can speak for. So for history, the only AP class I took for history was AP EOS History. It was one of my first APs, and I think the biggest thing I learned throughout that class was to not waste your time on the textbook. And for history, I 100,000% recommend going onto YouTube and watching Heimler's history. I think he does AP World, AP Push, AP Human Geography. I could be wrong about that one. AP Government and Politics, AP Euro. He does so many history-related AP videos, and if you just watch his videos, like every single unit before the test, you will be so solid with the chronological timeline of things and like all the details you need to know. I would watch each of the unit videos repeatedly to make sure that I got every single detail in my mind and knew the whole timeline of events, because honestly that's what AP history classes are like. You just need to know all the events that are leading up to a certain time. And also you want to make sure that leading up to the test for your AP history classes that you are practicing essay writing and you know how to like compile all those different sources and write a DBQ or an LAQ with your knowledge. DBQs require a little bit more practice, I think, because it's like actually pulling details from your sources. Obviously, if you're watching this like a week or two before your exam, you're not going to have as much time, but I still would try to practice at least 2 or 3 full essays if your teacher hasn't done them for you recently. And for multiple choice, that's always good to practice. Again, I recommend getting a book for that. I have a bunch of A-push books that I used for practice, and I just took full practice exams, but that's something I would recommend. I think this one is going to be just like the miscellaneous category, but I'm going to group in AP macroeconomics, microeconomics, and psychology. And you also have computer science. So I'll group in those 4, I guess. But you're in luck because there are 2 full exams for macro and microeconomics online from 2012, and honestly the exam hasn't changed that much as of right now since then, so those are very helpful. All the same content is going to be on the exam, so taking that full multiple choice part for both the micro and the macro, whichever one you're taking, is definitely going to be helpful. And then it also gives you the full FRQs, which is great. So take that exam, use that as a baseline to see what you need to still improve on. For macro and microeconomics, I also recommend watching YouTube videos for those. Those are really great to have the YouTube videos for. There's 2 people, Jacob Reed and Mr. Clifford. Go onto their YouTube channels and watch the unit videos or the full review videos. Those are the ones that helped me the most. If you are struggling with like some tiny topic, they also have lots of topic videos as well, but if you just watch those unit videos on repeat a few days before your test, you should be fine, as long as you're also like doing some practice with like graphing and stuff like that. You want to make sure that you know how to graph, because graphing is very important for economics, as we all know. So okay, moving on to psychology. AP Psych is actually one of my favorite APs. People are not kidding when they say it's easy. Like, it is truly a very easy AP class compared to other APs. It is almost completely just memorization. I would just be constantly taking notes on like definitions and then like the word and then the definition, or just different parts of like the brain and stuff like that, whatever we needed to know. And I would just have that in one section of a 3-section notebook, and it would just be everything, like the whole course outline, not the outline, like everything that you need to know. And I would use that, review all my notes for each specific unit before the test, and then for the actual AP exam I would go through all of my notes again and make sure that I know every single definition, because it is purely memorization, like I said. And then obviously I would take practice exams. I did use a Princeton review book for that. I think it's definitely helpful. However, my teacher also gave us a bunch of practice tests and let us bring back home our tests throughout the year. So I think if you don't want to get a review book for that, you can definitely just go over your practice exams that you've taken and like actual tests in class. CSP, Computer Science Principles. I took this one my junior year. I went into it knowing no coding at all. not a single, like maybe a little bit of HTML, but not really. In that class you need to know JavaScript mainly, so you don't want to go into the class thinking that this is just like an easy 5 on the exam and like you don't really need to put in much effort at all to get that 5, because in reality you kind of need to put in some more effort than you think, especially if you're going into it without knowing any coding at all. Honestly, if you're the type of person who does really well with memorization and that's not an issue for you, the thing you need to focus on most is actually learning how to code, which code.org is a pretty good website to use, and your teacher probably uses that for the course, but you don't go through the lessons in code.org just like half doing it, half paying attention. Like, you actually want to make sure you understand how to code, how functions work, how parameters work, how for loops work, and also how to spot mistakes in code and how like each line of code should be written, because a large part of the exam is finding out the bugs in the code and figuring out like what certain lines do. Definitely I recommend getting a review book and trying a lot of practice tests. Like, this is one where you want to do a lot so you know exactly what is going to be asked about relating to the code, if that's your problem area on the exam. The language exams. So I have 3 for this one that I've taken: AP Lang, AP Lit, and AP Spanish Language and Culture. So for the reading multiple choice, you don't have a lot of time for each individual question, to be honest, and that's something where I feel like a lot of students struggle. So throughout the year you obviously want to be doing practice with this and making sure that your timing isn't an issue, because there's been times where I was like running out of time and had to really rush through the last couple of excerpts and passages. Especially for the language exams, you need to get a review book for those. Trust me, it's not like they have plenty of like multiple choice practices online where you can just do it for free. And I would not spend so much time practicing the essays if you're preparing for the AP exam, like in the review books, because again, those take a long time, and it's the skills that you need to master throughout the course. Honestly, like, you can't just do that overnight or in a couple of days. For AP Lang, I recommend kind of gathering some, because I know for one of them you need to do an argument essay, which is like your own knowledge and stuff like that. So if you have sources that you can think of, I recommend creating like a Google Doc or just a compilation of sources and like things you can pull from. I don't want to go into it too much, but just I recommend doing that so you don't blank on the exam. And then for AP Lit, I recommend creating a Google Doc that has all of the books that you read this past year. It's really helpful. I did that. I actually made a video about all the books that I read, kind of just summarizing them. Just like give yourself a document of the main themes of the book and like the characters, because you don't want to forget the characters' names. And then for AP Spanish, you want to be practicing, again, just like the Lang and the Lit exam, your multiple choice under time constraints, because it's much of the same. You have to read passages and then answer the multiple choice questions. So doing a lot of practice with that in a review book is great. And you also want to prepare for the cultural comparison section of the exam. And to do that, you need to only focus on one country. So just research as much as you can about the culture for that one country, like the food, the holidays, traditions, and also as much as you can, like leading up to the exam, in the weeks leading up, you want to immerse yourself in as much Spanish speaking content you can relating to like movies, television shows, stuff like that, because the more you're hearing it, the better you're going to do on the listening part. I have these science courses for AP. So I've taken AP Bio, AP Chem, and AP Physics. I've gotten a 5 on both Bio and Chem, and I hope to get a 5 on Physics. I have the exam tomorrow, so wish me luck, guys. But yeah, Physics 1 is the exam I'm going to be taking. I cannot stress this enough. You need to practice. That's really what it boils down to. For biology, there are systems like the Krebs cycle and stuff like that where you kind of need to memorize how things work and like what goes out and what comes into the cycle, and like evolution, how that works as well, and like different words and definitions for those words. But for chemistry, it's really like math and just practicing different problems, like equilibrium and stuff like that. So like you absolutely need to get a review book for any AP science classes, because there are no multiple choice online that are like good enough unless you're doing like the progress checks or the multiple choice on AP Classroom. But if your teacher doesn't enable those, you need to use the Princeton review books or the Barron's books, whatever you get your hands on. Honestly, you just want to take at least 3 full multiple choice and FRQ exams before the exam, because that gives you your baseline of like, and like an expectation of what the exam is going to look like. And then from there you can kind of be like, okay, what units do I need to really focus on before the exam? But yeah, I think it actually is helpful to do a lot of practice FRQs as well, at least for physics and chemistry, because they are mostly math related. Bio, I know, is a lot of just like writing out like responses, so that's always helpful. But a couple of nights before the exam, I recommend going on to YouTube and trying to find like either a cram session or like a full review session of the whole course, even if it is a couple of hours long, because that way you can review every single detail you need to know for the exam. So if there's like something you haven't reviewed in months, you get that back into your head and hopefully you can remember it on the exam day. The last section I'm going to go over is math. And I know that AP Pre-Calculus is now a thing, so that's interesting. But I've only taken one AP math class, and it was AP Calculus ABC, at least that's what it was called in my high school. It includes AP Calculus AB material and BC material, and I took the AP Calc BC exam, which has an A subscore in it as well. As long as you write down everything that you need to know, like all the different units, like Riemann sums, integration by parts, like all those different like little mini things you need to know how to do for the calc exam, it should be fine, because you're practicing as you're going through the course, and as if you have that notes compilation of like everything you need to know, you can just flip through your notes at the end of the school year preparing for the exam and kind of go over stuff that you don't remember how to do. Like if you don't remember what Riemann sums are, like focus on that and kind of go over the practice problems that you've done in the past year. Teacher gave my class 4 full AP exams for AP Calc BC, so I definitely recommend using those since they are from College Board. And I think you can get access to them. I'm not exactly sure where, but your teacher should give you access to them. And then if not, if you want to get a review book, sure, there's no harm in doing so, but I did have enough College Board practice exams where I could just go over those and go over my wrong answers and stuff like that. But it can never hurt to get a Princeton review book for calc. Definitely don't neglect series for calc BC. Like that is a pretty big part of the exam, so, and it's a hard part, so definitely go over that again and again leading up to the exam. Like repetition really gets it in your head. Also know how to use your calculator. That's an important one. I don't know if every teacher goes over it, but you want to make sure that you are using a TI-84 calculator for the AP Calculus BC exam, and you want to make sure you know how to like graph everything and find zeros on the graph, change between radians and degrees mode, use the Math 9 and the Math 8 function for integral and derivatives. Just being really quick with your calculator can help, because again, time constraints can be an issue if you haven't practiced all that much. But yeah guys, I think that pretty much wraps it up with all my tips for the AP exams. I wanted to break it up like this for you so you can like easily get to whatever exam that you wanted to know about. So hopefully like breaking it up was a good idea. Hopefully it helped you guys a lot. If you have any other related questions to any of the AP exams I was talking about in this video, be sure to comment them below, and I'll definitely read all of your guys' comments and try to answer your questions to the best of my ability. I wish you the best of luck on all of your AP exams and finals. I am still going with my finals and AP exams, so just know that you can get through it. You got this. You will get through it. And whatever happens, happens. Like, honestly, the night before the exam, don't try to cram a year's worth of knowledge into one night, because that is not a good idea. But I do recommend watching those review videos, like full course review videos. Please make sure to give it a like if you enjoyed these tips and found them helpful, and subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you all in my next video. Bye!